Mark, Kidd said the drink slipped out of his hands. Taylor said Kidd didn't tell him to hit him, so there's that. But how did the decision to fine Kidd come about?
Well, I think what happened last night got so much attention that even though it's a holiday, the NBA wanted to send out a quick message here because really I think around the league, a lot of players and a lot of Jason Kidd's coaching peers, they thought it was a pretty clever move to come up with in that situation when you got no timeouts. So I think it's something the league wanted to react to quickly and put this fine out there as a deterrent to say, look, you can't do this, and we're not going to be having that. So once footage started to circulate last night, I think it was pretty widely assumed that he was going to be fined in pretty short order.
Right, you talked about it being a clever move. The delay of game allowed the Nets to draw up a final play, but Kidd wasn't the one leading the huddle. Assistant coach John Welch drew up the final play, and there's been a lot of criticism of Kidd so far this season. He's a brand new head coach. How much control does he have over this team?
Oh, he has the control there. The way they've set up their bench, it's very reminiscent of how Larry Bird, how it was when he was in Indiana. You had Rick Carlisle running the offense. You had Dick Carter running the defense. The Nets have tried to model their coaching staff along similar lines because Jason Kidd is a coaching rookie. He is learning this on the fly, and the reality is he's coaching a team with win-now championship expectations. So he knows the criticism is coming. He has to deal with that. There's no way he can duck it, especially in the market he's coaching. You know that if a team doesn't win in New York, you're going to get criticism. But any notion that he's not the one in charge, I think, would be, would be inaccurate. This is his team, and basically everything I've heard to this point, the veterans on this team through the rough start here early, he still has the support of his veterans. They've made a point to really back him as he goes through, what's a pretty tough transition straight from playing to coaching.
Well, if he has full control, how much is he to blame for the 4-11 season so far then?
Well, when you're the coach, you have to take the blame again, but I do think there are a lot of mitigating factors here, and the biggest one is the Nets have been banged up. I mean, they have a long list of injuries, and I think the real judgment of this Nets season, Darren Williams has to be healthy and playing. That, one of the biggest, Jason Kidd was brought in surely because Mikhail Prokhorov wanted to make a splash, surely because a lot of people thought Jason Kidd was a natural leader who could make that step from player to coach. And I think also the fact that the Nets could steal him from the Knicks, those were all factors, no question. But I think one of the biggest selling points that the Nets saw in naming Kidd their coach was he can reach Darren Williams. He can get the best out of Darren Williams. They're point guards. They're close friends. Darren Williams really looked at Jason Kidd as an idol, but Jason Kidd really hasn't been able to coach Darren Williams. He missed a ton of camp. He's missed a ton of time early in the season, and I think it's tough to judge Jason Kidd when the guy who everything is supposed to revolve around there hasn't been there.
Well, as you mentioned, Kidd, flashy hire, and this is a team that's expected to win now. So how long of a leash do you think Kidd has?
I think he has a much longer leash than probably we feel on the outside. I've been checking on this. We've had other reporters who've checked on it as well, and the consistent message coming out of the Nets is Jason Kidd has the full support of ownership. They knew that there was going to be a steep learning curve for him making this transition. We haven't seen it too often that a guy goes straight from playing to coaching. So I think the Nets knew that there were going to be some bumps, and the reality is, again, they've had so many injuries. You add the injuries to a pretty challenging schedule here early in the season, and the Nets shouldn't have the record they have. They should have a few more wins than they do, but I think Jason Kidd's bosses understand he's been dealt a pretty tough hand here early in the season.
Well, the Nets will look for their 5th win when they take on the Rockets on Friday. Marc Stein with the latest on the NBA fining Jason Kidd $50,000 for what is now known as Cupgate.